Okay, so aloha and welcome to the Awakening to the Magic of the Menstrual Cycle Summit. Welcome back if you've already been tuning in, and a warm initial welcome if this is your first interview. My name is Angel. I'm your host today, and today I'm speaking with the lovely Rachel Crow. Thank you so much for being here, Rachel.
Thank you, Angel. It's always an honor. Really beautiful to connect with other amazing women doing this work.
Definitely. Okay, so I hope you guys don't mind, but I'm just going to read her short bio from my computer for a second. So for anybody that doesn't know Rachel, she lives with her two youngest in the wilds of West Wales, where she has been on a pilgrimage journey alongside her ancestors, the crows in the land, into menopause and naturally clearing cancer from her body. She's a sensitive and has found peace, stillness, and power through a life of listening to her womb, as well as the ebb and flow of the moon and the stars. She has been hosting women's circles for more than a decade and currently holds monthly moon lodges in her yurt for her local tribe of women, where they join together to connect through hearts and womb, build a fire, make smudge bundles, and other loving earthly activities to nourish the spirit of women. So, yay, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. What an introduction.
I just love the idea of coming together in a yurt with a fire. I wish I could come and join you.
It's very special. Yeah, we did a crowdfunder to buy the yurt and have a space. Initially, it was going to be a space where women could just come and bleed, and it's just become more of a space where we gather, because no one bleeds at the same time anymore, do they? So we can hold that vision for the future where we come together in our moon lodges every moon time.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what that would be like for like a whole tribe to bleed together. That would just, it's like beyond my comprehension at this point. I can't even imagine the power that you could feel in an experience like that. Because I mean, it's so intense sometimes just in your own cycle by yourself.
Yeah.
Bleeding with a whole tribe would be a whole nother dimension, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to know a little bit about your journey and what has led you to doing this type of work.
Well, I think probably like most women, we come to the work we do, or most people, we come to the work we do because of where life takes us. So for me, I think probably the first menstrual health book I read was maybe Alexandra Pope's Wild Genie or Miranda Gray's Red Moon. It was around the same time. So I was in my early 20s. I'd had my daughter and I had just suffered horrendous PMT. And at the same time I was, I had a baby, I was using cloth nappies. So I was like, I'm throwing my tampons down the toilet and flushing them away. And I suddenly had this awakening moment of the products I was using and the disconnection from my cycle and from my body. So and also not wanting to use the pill. So kind of doing my research around, what alternatives are there. So it all came, it's like three bits of it all came together at once. So it's kind of like the wounded healer, isn't it? We come from that place of like, I'm suffering and I need help. What's going to help me? Yeah.
I mean, that's really the gift that the healing crises and suffering gives us, is a really rewarding journey with ourselves, and then a whole bunch of wisdom to share with others to help them on their journeys. It's really quite incredible how that type of gift is wrapped up in a really challenging and oftentimes traumatic package.
Absolutely. It's like it's the surrender, isn't it? It's kind of you have to surrender to pain. I mean, women have to do it giving birth. So it's like there's so many layers to it, but it is absolutely, and I feel like it's kind of what's happening in the world at the moment, that we're having to surrender to so many things. So, you know, it's that gift. Yeah, our bodies give us the gift of surrender in so many ways. And this, for me, the cycle has been about acceptance and surrender every month.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, it's like it teaches us, it mentors us in trusting more deeply and being okay not being in control.
Yes.
And knowing that there's something bigger happening within you and outside of you. And yeah, I've really been feeling like that is something that the world has just allowed to slip between its fingers over time, is that trust. I mean, we see so many different types of structures that have been built in an attempt to control, and that is one of the really challenging and also very beautiful things that's happening right now on the planet, is seeing those begin to dissolve, which is forcing us to come back into that space of trusting something outside of ourselves, which just brings us closer to our connection with the divine in whatever way we believe it,
Yeah.
and the relationship with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just, as you're talking, I was thinking about the control and how we try and control our bodies, you know, using medications, you know, how we've tried to control our fertility, and then, you know, we're only now really seeing the side effects of, you know, the first generation of women who took the pill. You know, kind of some of the women I'm supporting who've been on the pill for years or had the injection or the implant, and they're having horrendous menopause. It's kind of like, wow, is this the, yeah, is this now what we're seeing? Is this now the side effect, and all the infertility on the planet, and from the, you know, from what we're eating and all the chemicals in of it, you know, it just goes, there's layers and layers of it on, isn't there? But I think we're only now really getting in touch with what we've done.
Yeah.
Out of choice. Which is
Good.
Yeah.
That's a really good point to bring up, because that's the type of thing that you can't foresee when you're doing it. Like knowing that being on some type of artificial contraception is later on going to impact your journey through menopause in a really big way. I think that's something that a lot of women would be really grateful to hear about. So thank you for bringing that to not only my attention, but everyone that tunes into this. That's an important piece to consider.
Yeah.
Did you ever take the pill?
So no, well, luckily not for long. I took the pill and then I got pregnant because the pill made me really sick. So I would take the pill and then I would vomit, and of course it didn't work. So I got pregnant and actually continued to take the pill pretending I wasn't pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
Which interestingly my mum did as well when she was having me. She kind of, yeah, didn't want to be pregnant, so she just kept taking it. So yeah, but it made me so ill. So that's why after I had my daughter, so I was like 17 when I had my daughter. So she's 30 now, and I couldn't, you know, after I had her, I was just like, well, what am I going to use? So this is where I started doing the research, because even the mini pill made me sick. So I just knew my body did not want that in it. And nothing I was looking at, nothing the doctors were offering me felt like they would work. So that's where I really got in tune with my cycle. I was like, okay, I have to know when I'm ovulating. I have to be in charge here. And I have always been so grateful for that empowering information, because it changed my life. You know, it's like just having that information. This is what I say to women. It's like, you're only fertile for a few days out of the month. Why would you take a medication all month?
Totally.
Yeah.
That blew my mind when I learned that you can't get pregnant all the time.
Yeah.
It's actually just a specific window. I personally took the pill for like 9 years, and I didn't have the side effects that a lot of women do who are more sensitive to it. So it was more or less easier for me to continue taking it. And I purposely didn't educate myself on it because I knew that it was better than an unplanned pregnancy for that chapter of life that I was in. And I'm grateful that it was an option for when I was living a much more disconnected, unconscious life. But oh man, when it came time for me to come off of it, I had no idea the feat that was going to be. It was one of the most challenging times of my life. I remember for at least 9 months after not taking it, feeling like really mentally not okay, and just like an emotional basket case, and had a very little tolerance to being around anybody or processing any type of social activity or information. It was, I can't even describe what it was like, honestly, the like what that was like in my mind and my emotions. And I didn't realize that birth control makes you stop ovulating.
Yeah.
Like completely. Your body doesn't release eggs. That really makes me wonder what that does.
Yeah. Well, energetically, you're kind of really cutting off from all your sexual organs, you know. So it's like there's no energy going there. It's all shut down. So this is why, I mean, I've supported women who in their early 20s who've come off the pill and then not bled for like 3 years. You know, and we think that we'll just come off it and everything will be fine, then we can have a baby. You know, it's like that's what we're told. And that it's totally natural. It's kind of putting your body into this natural state like you'd be when you're pregnant. And you know, the amount, our hormones do such a beautiful dance in our bodies, and it's about trusting that dance, isn't it? It's kind of once you start putting things in that they're massive amounts compared to the tiny amounts of hormones our body uses in its fertility cycle. You know, the pill is a massive dose of hormones. You know, your body's just going to go whoa. And yeah, women who've had depression, you know, psychotic episode, you know, there's so much. So I always recommend women to, before they go on the pill, if I can get them, then to read The Pill, Are You Sure It's For You, or The Sweetening of the Pill book. Both amazing books. And actually, you know, I gave one of them to my eldest to read because she didn't want to hear it from me, because we don't want to hear from our mums. And she read that book, and that was it. She was just like, not taking the pill. You know, it kind of, both of those books are really good. If you want the science and you want the information.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like, well, if women knew that there was any alternative, or that you can actually be in tune with your body enough to know what part of the cycle it's in, it would make a really big difference. I'm really looking forward to seeing education for young girls, like before they come into menarche and start experiencing the cycle. I don't know exactly how to go about that, but I'm really looking forward to that being a common thing in our culture.
Yeah, I think that there are women trying. It's interesting because where I live now, we've got about 4 mum and daughter groups, and that's what we do. We're making it normal part of our conversation. We bring it in through the nature cycle of nature, and you know, we've got 8-year-old, 9-year-old girls who know when they're going to be ovulating. But when I lived in a city and I was trying to go into schools, the doors were shut. It was like most schools had kind of like the head teacher was a guy, and they'd have, you know, I don't know what it's like in the States, but we have the tampon lady that comes, who's paid by Tampax, who probably gives the school a bit of money or, you know, some funding for something, and they bring all their free products to get all the girls hooked on the tampons first. So and I was really lucky that my eldest daughter, she put her hand up and said, my mum makes cloth pads.
Awesome.
Yay.
Totally. That's so cool that you make them.
Yeah.
I was raised with tampons. I had no education whatsoever. Just like my mom probably had no education on it, and neither did her mom. And it wasn't until I stopped taking birth control that I stopped using tampons also, and I started using cloth pads. Just like, you don't even know how disconnected you are when you're taking a pill like birth control. I had no idea until I stopped taking it, and it just allowed this massive flourishing of like divine feminine energy that I didn't even know what was going on in my life. I was just like experiencing all of this like liberation of the divine feminine in my own life in all kinds of ways, and it all like corresponded and correlated to stopping taking birth control. But also I knew that I was like ready and that I was in a place that I could trust myself. And that was like really important for me to get to. And that makes me think about the need for some type of like real legitimate education on our sexual energy, because if we knew that at a young age, it would make a much bigger difference. And I feel like young individuals would be quite a bit more responsible with the way that they interact with and share their sexual space with people.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of my desires in life to get this information out to women who are younger, because it's I mean, it's fascinating kind of when I can see it on Facebook. I can usually tell when one of my friends is ovulating by the pictures they start putting up on Facebook. And with young girls, it's kind of like, I think when they leave home and they go to uni, if they've got this knowledge, then they know they'll kind of look in the mirror, they're going out, and they'll be like, okay, look at what I'm wearing. What clothes do you choose when you're feeling juicy? And then you mix that with a bit of too much alcohol or other things and get into trouble. It's if you've got that knowledge, then you can be really aware of like, okay, maybe put the condoms in my bag tonight,
Definitely.
Yeah, it's kind of like it all mixes in, because our sexual energy is such a powerful energy, and we can abuse it without even being aware that we're abusing it, especially when we're young and unconscious around all of that. And giving your power away. I mean, a lot of the work I do nowadays is actually with older women going through perimenopause and actually reclaiming all that power that they gave away in their youth. It's like soul retrieval, kind of, how we call all that back. It's kind of like I don't know if you know Women Who Run with the Wolves, Clarissa Pinkola Estes, but it's her sealskin story of, the sealskin woman. You've got to get your pelt back. You've got to, call back all those bits of yourself that we unconsciously give away because we just don't know. There's no judgment there. It's just we don't know we're doing it. Yeah. I mean, I was watching my 10-year-old flirting with the neighbour the other day. He was digging a hole in the garden. She went over and had a chat, and I'm like, oh my God, her hormones are coming up. I'm gonna have to stop having these conversations.
Well, I'm glad you have a conscious mom. Even though it's probably not easy for you.
No, it's not. It's kind of, but
you're learning to.
It's the road less traveled, isn't it? It's, the easy option is just plug them into TV and don't talk about anything. And then they end up women who, well, so we all have our journey, whatever the journey is. So, we got through it. We've come to these wise women.
Thankfully, I feel like I just barely made it out of so much trouble by the skin of my teeth. I'm so grateful that you're doing that work of helping women call back parts of themselves and their energy that they gave away and their power. Like, that is so powerful. Thank you so much for doing that. I didn't have any guide like that. And it was all right around the time when I stopped taking birth control too, is when I started really studying the true nature of sexual energy and just like woke up in a massive way. And there was this huge amount of guilt and shame that came with it when I looked at how wild and crazy and almost like feral like I was for my teenage years. And for most of that, I felt like a slave to my hormones, like I had no control over them. And that's why I took the pill for so long, because an unplanned pregnancy wasn't an option, but I also didn't feel like I had a choice because I couldn't trust myself. And it has taken me a long time to forgive myself and be okay with it. So I'm really grateful that you're doing that work for other women. I can imagine there's so many women in the world that would really appreciate having a guide and support like that you're providing for them. You.
Thank you.
Okay, so on your journey, I would like to know what has been one of the most challenging pieces for you?
Well, I suppose what comes to mind is kind of being present and what's going on now for me. So I kind of expected menopause to be a breeze because I was so on it with my cycle. And, you know, there's that saying of like, you know, at menarche, we meet our power. Through our bleeding years, we become our power. You know, we practice our power, and then in menopause, we become our power. And yeah, I had, you know, for me, menopause, it's an initiation. All of these stages in our lives are an initiation, and it's been really big for me because menopause kind of coincided with my perimenopause started just after having my son. So I've got a 7-year-old, so I've got a 30-year-old and a 7-year-old and 2 in between. I've been doing motherhood for a long time, so that was one of the first things. It's like I was just going, I don't want to do this anymore. The stress, I was living in a community and it was very stressful, and stress is no good for our cycle or for women going into menopause because all the symptoms get ramped up. And then I was diagnosed with cancer, so I had all these things going on which were just really full on. But you know, I use the tool, you know, I feel really blessed that I've had these tools. I mean, I have been doing all this kind of work since my early 20s. I've been interested in spirituality and kind of studying meditation, and then I got into kind of the shamanist side and, you know, the divine feminine. So it's just a matter of pulling in all the tools that you've learned and really having to walk your talk and really having to use them. And it's not easy because I've had to shed, you know, to let that come in and be a bigger part of my life. I had to shed, so I had to let go of some of my work. I left my relationship, I left the community where I was living. It was literally a kind of just let it all go, and I have to become the most important thing in the room because, you know, without my health, I'm useless to anybody, you know, certainly as a mother or as in the work that I do, all those things. So I had to really go, time to put me first. And I don't think I'd ever done that. Becoming a mum at 17, it's like, I don't think I'd ever put myself first.
Wow.
Yeah. So self-love, big self-love, and all that you were saying, the forgiveness for things that I'd kind of not been conscious with, and the wrong choices that I'd made, and all of those things, just having to really work through that. And I always say to women, you know, menopause, as you go into menopause, it's a big kind of, if you haven't looked at it, it'll come and bite you on the bum. So do your therapy, look at it, keep looking at it, you know, we're all like onions, aren't we, just peeling back layers all the time, but just keep being open. Don't ever think, oh, I've done that now, I've dealt with that now, whether it's, you know, a mother wound or, you know, kind of childhood trauma, or it's just, it always, something else bubbles up. So always being open to look, to keep seeking and keep healing, keep working on it. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
And I think also, you know, for a lot of us who are in this kind of profession where we do healing work or whatever, you kind of feel like, oh, I have to be healed to do this work, or I have to be perfect, I have to be done. No, you just be yourself, just be authentic with your truth. This is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going through, but I can help you because I'm a little bit, maybe just 2 steps ahead of you on that path. But I can, you know, this is what's worked for me, it might work for you. And we're all different, so we all have to ultimately find our own way with it. But pick up the tools. People are offering you tools. Pick them up, take them, try them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. What was I just gonna say? There's so many thoughts that come into my mind when you're talking, and so much more that I want to dig into. Oh yeah. So thank you for that, for the reminder that you're not ever done, and there's always layers, because like I have been on this holistic healing journey for like a good 10 years now, and I've done tremendous work. And sometimes I get to a place where I'm like, well, I mean, I guess there's not anything else. Nothing else is coming up for me to revisit, but I'm sure it will in time. It's really good to just be reminded of that you're not ever finished. You might get like a break in between. So like enjoy that break. Because
Absolutely.
it'll
Yeah.
help it for your whole life.
Yeah, that's it. It's like that, you know, and it's like the cycle, isn't it? You could look at it like the cycle. We have the kind of the bits in the cycle that are harder than other bits. Maybe for, you know, it's one of the first things I always say to women is, what's your favorite bit of the cycle? Because I think it can tell a lot about somebody. And the majority of women love ovulation, because that's when they feel the best. That's when they feel like a bright star, you know, and they don't like the come down. Whereas for me, I've always quite liked the darkness. You know, so I've always loved that premenstrual bleeding phase, the kind of retreat phase, and I've actually found ovulation kind of being that bright star. It's like too many lights on me. I go like that. So, you know, we're all different, and we all have a different space. But there are bits in our cycle where you get a break, where it's just easy. So whatever that bit is, you know, we can reflect that in our lives as well. There's bits of our lives where it was a doddle, that bit, you know, my 20s or whatever it was, that bit went really well. You know?
Yeah.
But also be grateful for it all, because that's where we get the richness of our lives, and we become the truth of who we are, because it's all a growth, it's all learning.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the greatest gifts that really, like, coming home to yourself and your cycle, and really cultivating a deeper relationship with the wisdom of your body gives you, is being okay even when like all hell is breaking loose around you and life is messy and there's, you know, like loss and grieving and shedding and all the really hard parts. It's like night and day from like when you're actually awake and connected to yourself than when you're like totally disconnected, and like there's so much more suffering that you just like perpetuate by not being centered in yourself and having that connection. And when you are connected, it's like a totally different way of processing everything. Like it's not like you're like agonizing over every bit of it and it just like never ends. You understand how to honor your emotions more, and know that it's like all part of the cycles of life, and it's okay and it's temporary, and you're gonna feel amazing again eventually, you know.
Yeah, I get women when they first start cycle charting, they might have done a few months and they suddenly see this pattern of like, oh, day 19, I hit the wall, I'm always on the floor. You know, it's like, and you get to go, oh, it's day 19 again, I'll be fine tomorrow. You know, it is that this too will pass in life, in our cycle, in everything. You know, and another thing I always say to women is like, one of my favorite practices that I've done for years and years and years is I journal every day, and the first thing I do when I'm journaling is I say, what does my womb want today? And you could say, what does my heart want today? What does my soul want today? What does my womb never tells me to pick up my phone or go on my computer or, you know, do work. She always comes up with really beautiful, let's go for a walk in nature, let's go and sit by the river, let's meditate under a tree today. You know,
Definitely. Oh,
stay in bed today, stay in bed all day. Like,
right, do all of the nourishing things that feel good to you.
Yeah. And it's so hard for us to do that and listen.
I know.
To really do the self-care, to really, you know, give ourselves permission, let go of the guilt, let go of the shame, let go of the little voice that goes, oh, you're being lazy or whatever it is. It's like, no, today I'm going to listen to my womb.
Yeah.
And, you know, spend 5 minutes sitting under a tree or whatever it is. It's like, yeah, I think as we all as society have to start looking after ourselves a bit more and really taking that time, which is what I feel like we've got at the moment, a little bit of a gift of time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very interesting time to be alive, but I'm so grateful to be here, and I fully feel and see some really incredible blessings that are being birthed out of all of this. And yeah, I just wanted to just add to that challenge of putting yourself first and saying no to the world, like especially when you're just starting to learn boundaries and how to really value yourself and love yourself. Oh my gosh, that is so hard. I've been practicing it for years, and still, like, when I'm menstruating, like, I know full well that this is my time to relax and really just go inward and like be closer to the divine. But there's still that energy, that momentum in the mental space that says, I need to be busy. I need to be doing something. Even if I'm like, okay, I'm not going to like work on any work or projects. My mind wants me to like get busy cleaning or doing lots of cooking, or it's like really sneaky the way that it can happen to keep you from being still and present with yourself.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
the resistance is real.
It almost feels like the world is set up to distract us
Yeah.
from that power. And particularly women, I think, you know, the way patriarchy, looking at the history of patriarchy, we've been domesticated. We're wild. We want to be psychic and wild, and yeah, we've been kind of pushed into that masculine linear way of, you know, we're supposed to be being productive, we're supposed to be being like, you know, let it all go, sister. Like, drop it at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like it helps to have a reflection like you to just give permission and like show an example of doing that, of just letting it go and listening and tuning into your womb. I mean, we have been so disconnected from that wild essence. I'm still pretty darn disconnected from it. There's still parts of me that like, just like the word wild alone, I feel like has gotten this weird tinge of meaning to it. Like it's something kind of like feral or crazy, you know? And it's not that. Like, what does, if you could just describe in a few words, like what your perspective of the wild that you're speaking of, what does that look and feel like?
For me, it's kind of like, it's about just being in your truth, your absolute truth. You know, I think women, we've been repressed for so long, I don't think we even know what it is. So for me, you know, kind of, yeah, drumming around the fire is when I feel my wildest. You know, I've done some sweat lodges where it's just been, you know, a group of naked women in the woods drumming and going in a sweat lodge, and that's why I come out just going, you feel so raw and powerful. And you know, gosh, to live in a society where we could be doing that every month.
Wow.
You know, it's kind of, yeah.
Sounds great.
I would say that's me at my wildest. But I get, you know, for me, drumming is kind of, it really brings out my what I feel like my wild, kind of authentic, true kind of, yeah.
Awesome.
That's my but it's whatever your passion is. It's whatever your, you know, what's your medicine, where's your wild. It's like, you know.
Definitely. Yeah. I just want to show you real quick that I just got my first drum.
Oh, beautiful.
So I'm really excited. I don't really have experience drumming, but I feel there's like this ancestral type of energy with it, and just a little bit of beating of it that I've done. It feels like it like awakens something inside of you that wants to be expressed. Like tapping into a rhythm outside of your body, kind of like taps you into that divine rhythm within, and almost like ignites and sparks that creative energy to be channeled through you.
Yes. I mean, I made my first drum about 20 years ago, and I only ever used it when I was bleeding. It was like my moon time, you know, and I kind of use it to go off and dream. And, you know, my life's developed into a point where I teach women to make drums. I make drums for sale, and you know, kind of I'm just starting to do some drum journeys that I'm going to put online. So you're very welcome to
Okay.
join me on some drum journeys, and just
Definitely.
yeah, it feels to me like an ancient medicine tool that we lost, and it's just part of our toolkit. You know, as women, it is, for me, it's the heartbeat of the mother, isn't it? And it's getting back in touch with that ancestral earth mother, the songs of all our ancestors behind us, the heartbeat of all our ancestors behind us.
Yeah, I have been feeling like I've been just organically starting to connect more with the ancestral lineage, and just really tuning into how much humans have gone through, like through millennia of our wild true nature being suppressed, like how much humans on this planet have endured to get us to this moment in time where there's actually an opportunity to change things in our favor. It really makes me feel so grateful. And like, I don't even know, I know nothing about my ancestors. I have very little like education about ancestors in general, let alone my own lineage, but I've been feeling it, like that connection just being made naturally the more that I guess maybe I just get in tune with my own truth. And yeah, I just feel really grateful, so grateful for all of the humans that have come before us, that have suffered and have just like pushed forward and have sacrificed just so much for us to be where we're at today.
Yeah.
Would you have any advice for anybody who is wanting to begin connecting with ancestors?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there's two, I see the ancestors as two things. So you were kind of talking about our ancestry, kind of humankind's ancestry, but then our own personal lineage. And some people are quite resistant to connecting to their own lineage, maybe if they've had trauma or issues with their parents or grandparents, whatever. So it's easier to almost go right back and connect with our tribal ancestors, whoever they might be. So there's loads of really beautiful ancestor meditations that you can do. I've got a couple on my website. Yeah, I mean, there's part of me, I love that you said it just happened naturally, because sometimes it does. Sometimes it is literally, I mean, I don't know why I live here in West Wales, but I was called here for a reason, and I feel like there's probably some of my ancestors here. I even saw a gravestone that I kind of walked over and went, I felt like it was maybe me. It was like, God, did I used to live here in another lifetime? So sometimes your ancestry almost naturally comes in. Yeah, or you know, it's just a case of, I like to just imagine that line behind me. You know, you could go down your mother line, just imagining your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother, your great great grandmother, and keep going back. And you know, you can look up those timelines of, like, you know, 500 years ago. You kind of think about, you know, wow, what was going on at that time. Maybe even imagining, like, you know, I've done workshops where we've gone back and gone to the witch burnings and kind of imagined our ancestors around that time, whether they were involved in the actual burnings, but they will have witnessed them. The whole village was called out to witness these. So we're all holding that trauma in our bodies as well. We've got so much healing and clearing to do from the suffering of our ancestors. So you could choose one thing, you know, and go back and do a bit of healing around that. Call one of your ancestors forward. It's very powerful to go right back to the start and go to that seed ancestor, whatever your beliefs might be, kind of like just imagining that there's this one ancestor that's the start of humanity. And just asking, what wisdom do you have for me? Is there anything I need to know? So yeah, there's so many ways of working with our ancestors. But you know, I'm really lucky, I live near some sacred stones, so we often I take people up there, especially after they've made a drum, and we go and sit with the stones and we listen to the stones. You know, we look at these massive stones, they've just been here for, we don't even know how long they've been here for, thousands and thousands of years, and they've seen so much. And it's like, for me, they just keep telling us that we're all going to be okay. We're still standing. We've watched humanity go through these cycles before. I'm like, here we go again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really trusting your intuition, whatever messages you get and whatever comes through, trust that. Because I think that's the other, we've been taught not to trust our intuition. Like you were saying earlier, right, when you were younger, you didn't really trust your body. We've been taught that. We've been taught not to trust. So, you know, that's one of the other things we do with girls really early on, is really teach them about listening to their gut feelings. How does your body feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel like when you meet someone, do you feel like pulling away, or are you pulled towards them? You know, it's like, go trust your intuition. So I always say to, you know, whatever messages you get when you come, you know, sitting with ancestors or whatever, trust it, write it down, because it'll be useful at some point.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm just really enjoying this conversation. You have so much amazing wisdom and knowledge to share. I'm just so grateful to be in this space with you right now.
Thank you. I love sharing it. That's what I feel like my journey is, to kind of just give everyone permission to do it. Because that's the other thing. I think, you know, people feel like, oh, I have to do this course and I have to do that, and I should have done this first. And it's like, no, just get a drum, go out and sit with the stones, start drumming, see what comes.
Yeah, I bet that is so powerful. It's so awesome that you make drums. How long have you been doing that for?
6 years, I think now.
And you sell?
Yeah, I've got an Etsy shop.
Awesome. Oh, that would be so special to have a drum from you. Okay, so I've got another, I mean, I have a million questions, but I actually wrote a few down. I want to get to the next one. So I asked you what one of the most challenging pieces on the journey was for you. I'd like to know what has been one of the most rewarding, even though I feel like we've already covered quite a bit of that, but just to reiterate, if there's something specific that pops up for you that has been really valuable or rewarding, other than just everything that comes from honoring your cycle.
I think the most rewarding thing for me has been really learning, like we were just talking about, really learning to follow my intuition, because I've spent a long time having the intuition and the gut feeling and overriding it with, but I won't act on it. And then maybe later down the line not, and now I always act on it, even if it means I'm doing something totally mad. It's like, act on that. So yeah, I'm actually going through a process at the moment where I'm being shown something that I'm feeling resistance to, but I know I've got to do it, and it is totally bonkers, and I might tell you about it when I've done it. But it's just like, okay, really, this is what life's telling me to do next? All right. Yeah, so always follow. And I think what I'm also learning more of is, we get shown, you know, the signs, the universe shows us the signs of, you know, this is what you're meant to be doing. And kind of often we get blocked and we push the blocks, and
or we're scared.
We force things when really we're not going with the flow. So it is really learning to drop into going with the flow more. And I feel like my cycle has been the foundation for that, my cycle awareness. And, you know, for me, you know, I've had a whole process of, my cycle was my spiritual life. You know, it's kind of like, so going into perimenopause and that all changing kind of pulls the rug out from under your feet. You know, it's like, oh, wow, I had this map that I used every month and this is how it worked, and now it's gone. And that kind of surrender again to, wow, okay, what's next? So, you know, my spiritual path kind of evolving into something different, and really being open to what life's shown me. You know, perhaps I can't imagine that once I'm postmenopausal, I'll want to continue to do womb work or teaching menstrual health and all that kind of thing, you know, so being open to what's next in life, which feels quite exciting, actually.
That's because you know how to trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually really amazing when you really start being able to truly listen, for one, and trust your intuition, even if it goes against rational judgment. It always makes sense in the end, and it always leads you through and to a path that serves you way better than the path that your mind thought was the right path you know, and that allows like so many beautiful miracles and synchronicities and opportunities to come into your experience, because you're like out of that I need to control everything. You're just fully trusting that you're on the right path and you're going in the direction you need to be going in, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah, let go, trust. Absolutely.
Easier said than done, but it gets better with practice.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just look over my questions real quick. So I know you told me a little bit about some of how you support other women by kind of like helping them reclaim lost parts of themselves. Like, in what ways do you work with women? Like, how do you
Well, that's all changed at the moment. We're doing this interview while we're in quarantine or whatever they're calling it. I'm calling it my cocoon time. So I have lots of different ways. So I have got lots of courses online. And one of my sisters and I run a course called Deepening Woman, which is a 9-month kind of quite full on. So we do a lot of, most of that is going back and doing healing from our past. So lots of shamanic work in that. So yeah, I've got that, and I've got a Love Your Period course, which I just wanted to make it really mainstream and kind of hopefully attract people. You know, I don't really like using the word period.
Me either.
If you all know that, it's easy, isn't it? So come on, love your period, ladies.
Right?
Yeah. And I kind of drip feed the alternative stuff in. And I've got what I call my broken basket woman, which is for women going through menopause, where you do feel broken. I felt broken, you know. I kind of wove myself back together, which is why I called it Broken Basket Woman. So there's those things online, and I can do one-to-one with people online. In real life, I do wound massage, old red tents. You know, have been able to do retreats for women. I've had women come and stay with me for 3 days, birth a drum, have a closing the bones ceremony, kind of wound massage, really treat themselves. So, you know, I'm kind of open to whatever your needs are. If I can support you in them, I will.
Yeah.
You know, that's my service, really, is to kind of be of support in whatever way I can. Yeah. And I've got a free Facebook group called Ask Ant Flow, for women who've bought my products, just kind of for questions. And I've also got like homeopaths and naturopaths and other friends of mine who are on that group that just support. So we've, you know, women who've got fibroids, or, you know, having to go through treatments, or, you know, anything kind of menstrual. And even people ask questions around other health issues. You know, they come up about asking about vaccinations or certain medicines. So it's a general kind of women's well-being space. So that's free. Anyone can join that and get free advice. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a powerful space to have. Thank you for facilitating that. So you are offering a free guided meditation channeling that you did. Do you want to share a little bit about that and how that came about for you when you received it?
Yeah, well, like I say, every morning I have my spiritual practice. I do journaling, and I sit and meditate. And I think at that point, when I channeled that, when I do drum journeys, I often don't know what's going to come through. So I was in this kind of place of quite deep despair of like, what's going on with the world? How can we change? How's it going to change? And it's just what came through. And I've always felt like the more we can get women connected with their wombs, connected with their power, the more the world is going to change.
Yep.
And I don't want to be gender specific. I don't think it's going to be just women changing the world, but I think, you know, there's a rise in energy, and we've seen it coming. You know, we've seen the whole Me Too stuff, and, you know, it's like there's loads of, like, Marianne Williamson standing up for presidency in the US. It's like all these women who are really stepping into power, and they're stepping into their power because we've been doing the work. you know, all the women who've been doing the work have been clearing the way and created that ripple effect so that those other women, you know, we can all do it, but we all have our own gifts to bring. So, you know, like Marianne has her gifts, I have my gifts, you have your gifts. You know, we're not all meant to be completely out in the public eye, but
Right.
every time a woman every time a person heals something in themselves, it gives permission for someone else to heal themselves, and so on and so forth, and that ripple effect. And I believe that's why we're at this point now, because enough of us have done the work and the portal is opening.
Yes.
And some, you know, there's going to be a shift and we don't really know what it is, and we're trusting. Well, I am. I'm not sure everyone's trusting, but I know you are. And I know there, you know, there's a group of us here that have chosen to be here at this time to do this work. So that's why I wanted to put that offering out, because it felt to me like a powerful gift to put out into the world. And I don't often, I've been quite shy in the past about, so I've only ever done things like that in small circles. I haven't really put stuff like that online, but I was clearly told it's time to put all this stuff out. People need it, you know, everyone needs it, you know?
I got that message recently.
Yeah. And I'm actually feeling like, I think the next bit of my work is going to be not just working with women, because I've spent so many years just working with women and doing womb work. It's like, it's time to expand. You know? Men want to sit with their drums as well. Men want to sit on the earth and connect with the earth. Men want to hear this, you know, and that spectrum in between. I even have, you know, I don't even want to do the gender thing anymore. You know, my eldest is actually non-binary, and I'm like, why do we have to have these labels? Can we all just be human? Is this the time of the, you know, the rising of the divine human?
Yes, definitely. Yes. I am really excited to listen to that meditation. Thank you so much for providing that. And sharing some of your personal channelings. I often feel like people feel helpless, like the problems in the world are so huge. I feel like so many people just don't even know what they could possibly do to make a difference. But what you just said right there is how everyone can make a difference, especially, you know, because we're talking about women, just getting in tune with your cycle and developing a deeper connection with the wisdom of your body and listening to that, and really pouring your heart and soul into your own healing experience. That is truly what brings about the change. Just like you said, it's because we've all been doing the work for long enough individually in our own cocoons that it is now echoing in the collective. So for anybody that's watching this that has been feeling like the problems are so big and you just don't know how to help, this is exactly where your power is and how you can help, by focusing on yourself and your own healing journey and honoring your own needs and learning how to prioritize yourself and give yourself permission to say no to the world and the incessant nagging of your mind that says that you have to be busy all the time.
Yeah. While you're saying that, I know I've got to, I'm sure you say this on your social media, but putting your blood on the earth, just putting our blood on the earth with a prayer, you know, it's kind of like,
Definitely.
I mean, that's something that I've been telling women to do, and I've been doing myself since I was in my 20s. And if you don't have somewhere you can do that, put it on a plant in your house. It's kind of like, you know, just connect with that in some way. But I just feel like that's something so powerful that we can do with a prayer of offering, you know, and even if it's with a prayer of for your own healing. But for me, I'm always like, for healing the earth and for healing humanity and for us to move forward in a better way.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually something that I just naturally started doing by myself intuitively. Again, after I stopped taking birth control and really started developing that relationship with myself, I just intuitively started doing it. And I have been doing it for years now and using basically the same intention in prayer every time, which is for the menstrual cycle to be liberated, for all women all over the world to have the freedom and support to honor their cycles, to rest when they bleed. And it's been really powerful. I just recited vocally prayers over my blood this last cycle, like a week or so ago, before I gave it to earth. And I was just talking to my partner last night about how I feel like that was really powerful. Like I can feel that those prayers were really heard. And like I said, I haven't really had a guide for this sort of thing. It's all just been kind of, I've been like remembering. And yeah, it's really powerful. I'm really looking forward to learning more about that sort of thing, and like blood mysteries and doing that sort of thing. I remember feeling like it's really weird. And like, I mean, it's very personal, so obviously I wouldn't like show off my blood to like the community. But once you kind of like introduced yourself into all of this stuff and you really make the connection and you start to feel that connection between your own like self and Gaia being restored by doing something like that, I always was intuitively feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing, giving my blood back to the earth, but some part of me feels like I'm making a reconnection with her and allowing her to read my energy. And
Yeah, you've got it. You've got it. So the Aborigines believe that when we're born and our placenta is buried, so if you've seen a picture of placenta, it looks like a tree. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. So they believe that when we bury our placenta, Mother Earth activates our life plan.
Yeah.
And then when you have your first blood, you put your blood on the earth and your life plan is reactivated. Your DNA is mixing with the earth mother and your energetic life path gets reactivated. And as you keep putting your blood on the earth each time, and of course, even more powerful is to get your yoni on the earth, because, you know, as we walk on the earth, we are connecting with her barefoot, we're grounding. Mm-hmm. You know, the power, it's actually, I mean, I haven't actually done it that many times to bleed directly, you know, yoni to earth, but I come back in the house and I'm like, I'm in a different space. I'm like, I've just taken some kind of drug because I have to have all the lights off. It's like super sensitive, and I go, whoa, you know, this bleeding on the earth thing is so, you know, it's step by step for some women. It's like, you know, but put a long skirt on and just go sit on it. No one will know.
Oh, I would.
Yeah. But it's interesting, you know, if you're going back to that, you know, how many of us had our placentas buried in the earth? They don't do it anymore, do they? They're all incinerated. So no wonder so many of us are lost and we don't know what we're supposed to be doing, and we don't have our life plan. And for many women, when they start bleeding on the earth, suddenly they start going, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I know what I'm supposed to be doing in life. Is that a coincidence? Or is that, you know, Mother Earth going, oh, you're here now. I feel you. Let's get you on track. It's my theory anyway.
Oh, it feels so good to receive this information, because it's just, it seems so huge, just that one piece, that your life plan is inside of the placenta that you grow in when you're inside of your mother's belly. And that just is like, that type of thing just like blows my mind. Like, how are we not burying placentas? What are we doing?
Yeah. And actually, I mean, I learned that after I read a book about some the Aborigines, and I learned that after I'd had my son, and I buried part of his placenta, but I ate the other bit. I was like, blimey, I ate half his life plan. Oops. But, you know, he seems pretty sorted. He's 7 now. I breastfed him, so hopefully he got some of it in the milk. But I did feel like, oh wow, I did the wrong thing with his placenta.
Well, you didn't know. No. We're remembering.
Yeah, that's it. And I love the fact that, you know, listening to you, we're very similar. I found my own way with all of this, and that's how we're meant to do it. I think we're meant to find our. There are so many books, but actually, you know, the right teachers come and sit in front of us at the right time and give us this information, and and then we take what resonates and leave the rest. So
definitely. Well, there's no better teacher than the one inside of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just a matter of turning your attention inward and making the connection. So,
and that's not, it sounds easy, but it's not, is it? Like, you know, I was working with someone recently who had cancer, and you know, I was trying to get her to drop into that bit of her body and listen to what its message was, and she just couldn't. She was like, my body doesn't talk to me like your body does. I was like, well, I've spent years listening to my body, so don't give yourself a hard time. It takes a while to learn to drop into that and really listen and have that stillness. And meditation is an amazing practice, no matter what form you're using, just to kind of learn to still your mind. And
yeah, it is hard because there has been this insane artificial momentum of life and not honoring the cycles, and it's so deeply ingrained in us. And that's exactly why it takes each person doing their own work for it to even be effective, not just on an individual level but a collective level, because it is inside of all of us. Like, we have to unravel and like undo all of these knots basically, and like dig up pieces that are in us that are not our truth, and no one can do that but yourself. Yeah. Wow, I feel like I could talk to you all day.
It's my favorite topic of conversation.
Me too. It's very easy to talk about, but I feel like we probably should get to wrapping it up. Wow, we covered so much. Is there anything else that you feel like we should share with the women of the world before we close? Or
well, I've got one other thing we kind of emailed, talked about, and just to scoot back to earlier in the conversation, we were talking about boundaries and how our cycle can teach us about those boundaries, and you know, the boundaries of giving to us, you know, saying no to things. And you know, I mentioned earlier about my journey with cancer, which was cervical cancer, and my aha moment from that was that I'd spent years focusing on my womb and totally forgot about my cervix. And for me, the cervix is she's the boundary of the womb, so her lesson is all about boundaries. So I want to throw that in as my last gift of like, don't forget the other bits of your body. It's kind of, you know, I think for me, I feel like I went so deep into my womb, I almost forgot about the rest of me. You know? So, you know, that's my last bit of wisdom, would be like, yes, listen to your cycle. Yes, listen to your body, but also focus on the spiritual life that's all of you. You know, it has to be holistic. Our lives have to be holistic. And it's been my biggest lesson the past few years, is like I went too focused on one bit, and then I had to get a cancer in another bit of my body that went, hi, you've forgotten about me. To make me kind of zoom out again and get the bigger picture. I went a bit too macro and I needed micro. I needed to get
yeah.
So, yeah, just and I have, for anyone who's interested in kind of my healing journey on that, just to throw this in at the end, I've been blogging my healing journey. So I've got a blog called Hello Cervix, which has got free meditations where you can connect with your cervix. And anyone who, I know in the States you call it cervical dysplasia. Yeah, kind of have different labels for these things, but anyone who's going through stuff, I've got loads of information on there for anyone who wants to, you know, learn more about connecting with the cervix and healing anything that's coming up there. So yeah, but its biggest lesson is boundaries, self-care and boundaries.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah,
I travel more and more into my own journey working with my womb. I honestly probably would have not focused on anything else other than that. So thank you for helping me like just maintain a more holistic perspective through my own healing journey. That's a really beautiful piece of wisdom to throw in at the end. So thank you for that.
That's all right.
And I think that is I feel pretty full.
Me too. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much for everyone tuning in right now. And thank you for doing your best to listen and come home to yourself and honor your own needs, because we know that it is not easy, but we're both here to tell you that you can do it and it's gonna change your life for the better. So just keep practicing. And thank you so much, Rachel, for being here. It's been such an honor to share this space with you, and look forward to just staying connected with you forever.
Yeah, beautiful to have this conversation with you and hear your amazing stories and your bits of wisdom too, because we're in a collective, we're all sharing. It's just about sharing. None of us are the teachers, we're just sharing our information. So thank you for creating this and putting all this information out. It's a gift to the world.
Definitely my pleasure, and it's what lights me up.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, beautiful. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone have a beautiful day.